All right. We are here with Gigi Flores, and so good to have you back on. Is this your third time that we've recorded?
I think so, yeah.
Third? Maybe fourth? I don't know. We'll have to go back in the notes. Let's see. And something I wanted to explore, something that's been on my mind lately is, I guess, film. Like, I'm trying to get more into film, and I have this like newfound appreciation of design and intention and how like everything means something.
Mhm.
And so like I'll go to during the week, I'll go to like hotel lobby bars and just get a glass of wine and then just like study interior design because everything is there for a reason. And I thought, I should look more into what goes into the thought process of filmmaking, and I wanted to explore some directors, and so I reached out to Gigi because you have one, I think, really good like visual aesthetics and like a great eye for just like the placements and like the color coordination, like symbiotic relationship. um and you watch movies a lot. So I thought I'm gonna watch a movie. I chose Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese film, so I could get more into what things mean and exploring the creative process of filmmaking. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for that compliment about the visuals. Yes, I am a very like visual and I like certain aesthetics and I like things to look a certain way. That's true. Um, and I think that's the beauty of filmmaking as well. It's storytelling, but more visually, right? And it's like you said, everything is there for a reason. That's something that I always tell my students whenever we're writing, and you have to take in consideration that a film starts on a page. Without a script, there's really no film, right?
Yeah. Why don't you reintroduce yourself for our listeners and viewers?
Okay. My name is Gigi Flores. I am from El Paso, Texas. I am currently a professor in creative writing at UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso. And some of my hobbies include watching movies and photography. Yeah, that's what I do. But yes, what was I saying? What was I telling you? I forgot. Sorry.
I kind of forgot too. I think I cut you off. We were talking about aesthetics and how everything means something.
Oh, yes. So yeah, something that I always tell my students is that when you're watching a movie, just take in consideration that most of the things, right? It depends also on the director and the decisions that they finally take on the end, right? But a lot of things actually start on a page. So it involves writing, right? And you also need to have those like vivid and detailed descriptions and why you're choosing certain colors. And for example, with Taxi Driver, one of the things that I remember from the film, which we were supposed to watch, you did, I didn't, I'm so sorry, is that it feels very dreamlike, right? You have this like color palette that Scorsese uses throughout the film, especially the night scenes in New York. They feel very vivid, and also they give you that dreamlike sensation in a way. Yeah. And that's of course for a reason, because we're talking about the existence or existentialism. There you go, I can say that.
Yeah.
That the main character is going through. So it makes sense. Huh.
So I watched Taxi Driver, like you mentioned, and do you have favorite directors? I think I might have asked you this before.
Yes, so actually, Martin Scorsese is one of them. Yes, I love his visuals. I love his way of telling stories. Another one that's really good that I'm a huge fan of, it's Shutter Island. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
That's a great movie.
So yeah, again, the visuals in that movie, right? That plot twist at the end, it's also very interesting. Which one is another one? I love The Wolf of Wall Street just because it's honestly, I think it's hilarious.
It is funny.
It is funny, yes. So again, he has a very unique way of showing things in camera, which I don't know, it's very eye pleasing in a way to me. I like it. I like it a lot. Christopher Nolan, it's also another one who's like brilliant.
I think one of my favorite movies is Inception.
Yes. It's fantastic. I love that movie. Yes. Why do you like it?
You also like movies that are like psychological kind of stuff going on. Yeah.
I do. I do. I like movies that actually make, I mean, of course I enjoy movies which are just like for you to watch, for you to have fun, for you to kind of like disconnect the brain. I love that. But also I love movies that actually make my brain work in such
Yeah.
ways that I have to figure it out what's going on. It's always interesting to me. It's always very appealing to me, especially the psychological thrillers at some time and point. I just find it very intriguing, and I like that. I like that a lot. I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah. I like those too. I think we're on the same page with that. Inception, I'm disappointed that Martin Scorsese didn't do that one, because then I would say that like that would be like my favorite, and it's like Martin Scorsese. I've seen a lot of Scorsese films, I want to say. There's a Shutter Island. I started watching The Aviator a little bit. Goodfellas is one. I've seen that. I've seen some of his music documentaries with George Harrison and Bob Dylan. I have seen those.
I haven't seen those.
Okay. What do you think would be the difference? Okay, let's start back here. What is the role of a director for a film? With the responsibilities? Like, define the position of director for a film and their responsibilities.
Well, he's a person responsible for the entire final product and storytelling of a film. So it's not just directing a crew, but it's also making important decisions when it comes to a story. So of course that also has to do a lot with the editing process, but I think that in the end, especially since you're the one in charge, it is the final product. Yeah, it is what we see on the big screen, right? So yeah, I think just making those decisions of like guiding people, guiding actors, guiding the story, guiding the editing process, in order for us to see something that is pleasing to the eye. Yeah.
So Scorsese, I did some research on him a little bit. And when he's talking about filmmaking,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in here. Oh, wow. Wrote a lot. The number one thing is to use your roots.
Mm-hmm.
So he's coming from New York. So a lot of his films take place in New York, and that the culture, the people, the attitude, the aesthetics in a way of like how things look. And so he uses that in telling the story and the narratives. The second thing is characters on edge. He likes to get characters he's interested in the nature of people and like the flaws of human beings, and not being afraid to kind of explore those flaws in humans, because they're all in the human experience, we all have that in ourselves. And so the viewer can see kind of that like darker aspect of themselves in these characters and play with it in a way that makes it engaging and interesting. Music in mind. So this was something I thought was fascinating, where Scorsese said that he has like these catalogs that he keeps of tapes of songs that he'll just like make a mental note and then like think about where to insert it in films. And then when he's making notes of films, he's like very clear in like when the music comes in, and he has like the shot and the music all in mind when he's directing it.
That is so interesting, especially when it comes to music. because that's brilliant. I think
So
that makes
he'll like make notes of songs and how they can potentially work, and like what emotion and what type of uh situation. I thought that was pretty fascinating. I kind of want to do that for myself, like build a library of just songs and then like note the emotion and what it communicates.
yeah.
Uh okay, direct the shot or direct the edit. So he says that all the edits should be considered ahead of time. So then the editor's job is actually really just putting it together. It's not necessarily, I mean, it's still creative, but not, it's not like, oh, I shot a bunch of stuff, like here, edit it. So every shot is like meant, it's like visualize how it will turn out. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then his parents would say, there's always hope. There's always another way. If you fail, there's always another way. And that persistence and kind of those values that drove him.
I like what you said about the editing because that is so true. I worked in multimedia a few years back, and it is so important that when you're actually, it's kind of like funny because when you're shooting a video, you know what you're shooting at, and you know the vision that you have for the end product. And I remember that sometimes we would go to like political events or stuff like that. And as I was shooting, I was like, okay, I'm gonna place this in the camera, and then this is gonna be here in the beginning of the video. This is gonna be more impactful, and then towards the end, I want to shot like this. So you start moving and playing around with it, and you're editing in your head as you're shooting a video. So it is interesting how he actually just like shoots everything, and of course you have extra B-roll, right? Just in case something doesn't work, you have another option, right? But yeah, by the end of the production, I remember just like taking the B-roll and just like cutting it where I was like thinking of, and where I was like picturing the video to look like in order to get that final product. So yeah, it is an interesting thought process that now that you're mentioning it, I kind of like go back to it and I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because that is what you like, you know what you want and you know what you see and you know your vision, right? So it's just also of trusting that process.
Do you know much about Scorsese? He seems like a fun guy.
I don't know much about him. Like, I'm a film enthusiast, but I'm not like a film expert.
Okay.
So I know mostly some of his work. But I mean, yeah, he looks like a fun guy. Like, yeah, like I don't mind him at all. It's also like Tarantino, who's like very, I don't know. I've seen a couple of interviews with Tarantino, and he's also like a very spontaneous guy. So I like the vibe.
Yeah. All right. So I watched Taxi Driver. I found it engaging and suspenseful and like crescendoing, where you're watching this character and it seems more and more like psychologically he's getting deeper and deeper into these darker thoughts and almost like in his own world, to where the end then it kind of is this big finale in a way, and you see the results of this like buildup releasing. But I was unsatisfied with the actual ending.
Why?
I think he should have. So spoiler alert. So this character, Travis Bickle, he's a former Vietnam vet. He comes back and then he has an insomnia. So then he's a taxi driver at night. So he rides around, but he's like unafraid to pick up anybody. He goes into all these different parts of town and he sees, what he would call like the garbage and like scum of the city. And he then becomes determined in a way to clean it up. And then there's this political presidential candidate, and he gives him a ride in his taxi. And it's kind of like this symbolic, when we look at the way I kind of perceived it, is that there's this political when exploring aspects of society, films, I think, will throw a political character in there, but all these political characters are kind of like stock characters, all saying kind of the same things, and they're symbolic of kind of the same same like solutions for problems. It's like, oh, this person, this one individual now will bring hope and bring prosperity to all, and it's kind of like this this role in a way, but it takes a toll. And he sees prostitution, so he is determined to save this 12-year-old prostitute, and then in the end he like shoots everybody around her so that she can be free. Now, I thought he should have died in that scene. I think that would have been a better ending. Instead, he goes into a coma, he wakes up, and everybody, the newspapers, they talk about him being a hero, and then he goes back to work being a taxi driver.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if he just died there.
Why? What would have been the purpose of like doing that, of like killing the character at the end?
I think by having him live and being a hero, it becomes a little cliche and conventional. Whereas I feel like the nature of the film is to show the darkness of this individual and kind of the unpleasant side or unseemly side of a human being. And then to go through this dramatic sequence of shooting and death, this character then lives. It seems contrary to what the film kind of vibe was.
Yeah, but I think that even that if he lives, it's not like, I mean, you say, okay, he ends up in this kind of like hero-like position, but I don't think so, because I mean, he's gonna live with that for the rest of his life. I mean, it's a trauma that he already has upon the trauma of just like murdering these people and then just like go with it, you know? And he's gonna go back to be a taxi driver, so it's like living in that same miserable loop endlessly. No. That's
I don't know. It felt like that would have been the best ending if he died, but then they were like, oh shoot, we got to wrap up this with this other character that he wanted to date. So we'll put her in the backseat of his taxi, and then they'll have like one final goodbye.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I guess it just didn't seem as impactful. The ending didn't seem as impactful as if he would have died in the scene. I don't know.
It is interesting. I mean, it is a good take on it. I think so. Like, it's always, I'm a huge fan of like killing characters for some reason, because it has an impact, right? It's like you say, it has, and it could have been different. It would have been more like memorable, probably. But also I think that just leaving a character to leave with that weight, and then going back just to like the ordinary life that they had, like being a taxi driver, it's gonna like, okay.
So then it leaves the viewer thinking, oh, now he has to continue living, and the burden, you had mentioned the burden. Okay, I see that too.
Yeah, like I think that was the point. I think so. I mean, also if you think about it, he can't sleep at night. That's why he's a taxi driver, right?
Yeah.
now he's gonna have less time to sleep, like because of what he's done. I think. I don't know. We should ask Scorsese, maybe.
We should.
That would be
So
cool.
the one of the themes is like this existentialism, and you had brought up existentialism before. What fascinates you about the theme of existentialism in the film?
It's all about, okay, well, it's one all about reflection. I think that, well, something that I can connect with is that we all deal with those questions of what if we have actual control of our lives? What if, because we sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I feel like we're so sure that we have control over our fate, and then something happens that you realize you don't, right? So I also like it's kind of like those questions that keep you up at night. So what if, or what could I have done to prevent this, or what if I had taken another route? So I don't know, just the idea of maybe thinking that we do have control over our lives and then realizing we don't, and how that impactful it is. I think that's what like keeps me up at night sometimes. Kind of like same like Travis, I can't sleep.
How much do you think we're in control of our lives?
Probably like 10%. I don't know.
You think so?
I honestly don't know, because I think it's funny because sometimes we, for example, sometimes we work towards something and we give our 110% and we think that we're gonna get it in the end because we deserve that. That's also the egocentrism, like the ego, right, of the human being, thinking that you work hard, I deserve this. This is mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't work that way. Why? Because I don't know. Life just happens. I don't know. It's something really strange. So I think that, well, probably like what, like 35%, I think we're in control. The rest, I don't know who's in control, honestly. It's just like random stuff. I don't know what's going
Life is happening all around us.
on. Mhm. And you honestly never know what's gonna happen. We don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. What are you gonna do tomorrow? You have some plans, right? But what
Yeah.
if something happens? Like it's just like strange. Like you never know what's gonna happen. So I don't know. That keeps me up a lot at night, to be honest.
Have you ever been in New York?
No, I've never been to New York. I want to go.
What what is most appealing to you about New York?
That is a good question. I think I'm gonna be honest, the food.
The food.
I want to try the food. I know, because I know it's a huge city and there's people from everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm really like intrigued about the food. And because I mean, a lot of people that I know that have been to New York, they're like, the food's really good. So I'm like, I want to try that food. I don't know. Yeah.
The only
Wow.
food I seem to eat when I'm in New York is just pizza.
Are you serious?
I just like to eat pizza all the time. It's so convenient. They have these like they have like pizza shops everywhere. And you
Yeah.
just go and you get like a slice, and it's you can just like eat it on the go, and it just fills you up, and then you can just keep moving.
You know what I want to eat? I want to eat a hot dog from a hot dog stand. That's what I want.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a dream. But but I think also other than that, probably is just, I don't know, the buildings, the architecture of New York. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I love taking photos of buildings for some reason. I find a lot of beauty in them, and I know that New York has a lot of them. So I'm interested in that as well.
Do you have a favorite? So when we're thinking about films, it's comprised of shots,
Yeah.
obviously. Do you have a favorite shot, like a go-to shot when you're exploring your own photography? Do you have, when you're taking photos of buildings, do you have a particular go-to shot that you like to create?
That is a really good question. Honestly, something that I've noted, okay, it depends. Of course, when you're shooting portraits, it is something different, right? But something that I do really like doing, especially when shooting buildings, it's going from up, like upwards. I love how the buildings look like incredibly tall and huge because they are, right? But
Yeah.
it also gives this illusion of them being like even bigger, right? And that's something that you're going to see a lot in my photography, especially when it comes to buildings. I like to shooting buildings um, in an upward direction. I just like the way they look. It looks appealing to me. And also probably which other kind of shots? It just depends. I think I've never really thought of it, but I don't know. Sometimes I see a building or I see something and I try to go for multiple shots to see what actually fits better, what actually looks better within a shot. And that's kind of like how I go around. Yeah.
So I'm trying to find a photo. So say this is one I took, what? It was Tuesday.
Ooh,
So something like that, where you're only getting the tops of the buildings. Is that what you're referring to?
kinda, yes, but I would be like even like next to the building, like next to that tall tower, like the
Uh-huh.
biggest tower. I would be like right into the corner in that street and I would like shoot up. Yeah.
So then something more
That's more angular.
so you get closer to the building and do it.
Yes.
I took this one was it yesterday?
Look kind of like this, like where I'm like actually like right
Okay.
by the building. I like those kind of shots. I don't know why, but I do. I think it looks pretty.
So something more like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a shot I noticed Scorsese used in Taxi Driver
Mhm.
is when music is being played,
Yeah.
it'll have like video of the buildings in New York, but from like the bottom up.
Yeah.
And I thought that looked cool.
It is cool, right? And it's also, I think it is a way to show how big the city is, like the greatness of the city in a way. Because I mean, when I think of New York, I've never been to New York, but when I think of it, I think of food and I think of like tall buildings. That's what I think of when I think of New York.
It's so photogenic.
That's why I want to go. Let's be honest, that's the goal. Take photos of every single building.
So okay, so your photography, do you have a particular style or an intention with what you like shooting and collecting in a way?
Okay, that depends a lot of what I'm working with. For example, sometimes, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. I do a lot of like pregnancy shoots.
Really?
Yeah, I do a lot of like pregnancy photo shoots. And something that I try to capture right there, it's not just a mom and the baby, right? No, but it's also showing that emotion, like emotional ability uh, to capture the essence of someone who's about to have a baby. I don't know, that's weird. I phrase that like really weirdly. But also the vulnerability of people, that's something
Okay.
that I capture in photos.
Do you like taking photos more of people or of like scenes and things?
I think I like both.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it is a very different subject. With the buildings, you can play a little bit more with perspective. Of course, with human beings as well, you can play with the perspective, how you try to photograph a person and why are you trying that? But I think with people, it's always the emotional appeal and what they're able to transmit in a photo.
So as the photographer, what is something how can you best bring that out in people when you're taking photos of them to like to get that nuance to come out?
That is a good question. Well, something that I always tell my subjects, it's okay. The camera, I don't know why, but people feel like very intimidated by a camera, which is intimidating sometimes. So I always tell them to relax. And something that I usually do is like close your eyes and think of a happy place or something. I don't know. It depends, right? And then I get closer to them and then I tell them, open your eyes, maintain, like keep that thought in mind, but don't look at me. Don't look at the camera. Because a lot of people tend to like, when they take a photo, it's like looking at the camera. And I don't like people to look at the camera. I like people to actually get distracted by something else, or like keeping their eyes, their sight somewhere else. So I can focus on their, on the, yeah, just like on the shot. So something that I do, it's like, if I'm telling you like, okay, like keep that happy like thought in mind, but don't look at me, I would actually make my subject to look away. But of course they maintain that happy thought, they're smiling. So I get closer with the camera and I actually shot that moment. And that actually transmit a lot of probably joy or enjoyment. And also I think it just works for the person to also feel a little bit more relaxed, knowing that I'm telling them, don't look at me, stay in a happy place. So yeah, that's kind of like, that's an exercise that I do.
Do you like your subjects looking at the camera or like looking off in the distance more, or looking somewhere else?
Looking somewhere else. I think it works best. I mean, of course, sometimes I'm like, okay, look at the camera, smile, but it feels a lot more forced. You know, if I tell them like, look away, even that same distraction is probably gonna change their expression, like the facial expression. So I can capture something else. Maybe they're not really happy, but they're a little bit more like in a serious mood, or I don't know, something else is going on. That if I tell them look away, that is gonna come through the shot.
So I suppose with everything, it feels like the intention of what the subject wants to communicate dictates the pose and where to look and all of that. So there's not one way to go about it, but something I'm cognizant about recently is poses and like getting a better repertoire of poses for photos. How would you encourage one to go about exploring poses, new poses for photos on camera?
Honestly, sometimes it is kind of weird, but sometimes when you exaggerate movement in a photo or like poses in a photo, you might feel like it's really strange or weird, but for some reason it works on the lens. So sometimes even, of course, it depends on the kind of photo that you want to take, right? If you just want a selfie, well, I don't know, position the camera in different angles and also position yourself like probably not so much like with your body backwards, but a little more up front.
Okay.
Play with your expressions. So it's also about yourself and also letting go of that tension. Don't think that you're taking a photo. Don't think that someone's taking a photo of you. Just like let the body be. Get relaxed. Why are you considering like any more poses, or what's going on there?
I just gotta figure. So something I'm aware of in the things I want to do, I have to get better at marketing.
Okay.
And so my social media is like pretty lacking in that category.
Okay.
So I've been told I gotta put more photos of myself on there.
Okay.
And so then I have to I want to figure out poses where it's not just like me like smiling like
Yeah.
in front of the camera, like show some range, or just like other than
From the design.
so I'm exploring some different poses, some but it goes back to I read Da Vinci's biography
Okay.
late last year, and he was big in connecting art and science together. And so he would study, he was all about observation and um observation, I would say. So in his paintings, it's about he would understand kind of the human body and anatomy in a way where the external is communicating the internal. So everything that your body is doing, or it looks, whatever someone else can observe of you, they can get a sense of what's going on internally, right? And so with photography or film, body language and the expression is so important to communicate what you want the viewer to feel or think, right?
Yeah. Like it is very interesting that you bring up like body language in acting, because today I was watching Prisoners with my class. We were watching the movie in class. Have you seen that movie?
Prisoners?
Yeah. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, Viola Davis, Paul Dano, I think that's his name. Have you seen the movie? No?
No. Is it a newer one?
No,
I haven't seen a lot of movies. So.
It's like a 2013 movie, so it's kind of like 10 years old now.
Okay.
But it's really good. And something that I like about that scene, it's Jake Gyllenhaal. It's really good at just like sometimes not saying anything and just look at the camera, and then you can feel what the character is feeling, right? Because of the expression of his face. And I think that's fantastic, right? For example, in that movie, he's a police detective or something like that, and he's well, I'm not gonna spoil it to you, but
Okay.
he's a detective, right? And there's scenes where he's actually like very annoyed, but he doesn't like say something, but you can see it in his face, and you can truly feel it, like, and you're like, okay, you know that. So I think it is very interesting how, yes, the facial expressions, or even just like, I don't know, like raising your brows in certain ways, like actually shows something different, even in the way that you raise your brows. Exactly, right? It can be kind of like surprise, or it can be like something like, are you serious? Like, I don't know. It is a different meaning, right? It has a different meaning. So yeah, I would say just play around with the poses. Like, you love reading, so why not trying some poses with books? That could be cool for your marketing strategy.
Yeah. Have you ever people probably practice that, don't they? Like facial expressions in the mirror.
Yes, you have to. It is kind of weird, but yes.
So when I was go ahead.
Oh, you go.
When I was in Mexico City I went to the Frida Kahlo Museum, or the house, Casa Azul. And she was really into photography. So she had these different poses. And she would remark how important the visual is in creating something larger. And for her, I mean, nowadays people would say it as like your personal brand or whatever, but she would use photography to explore her own emotions and just like play with it. That just like it stuck out to me at the time.
And also, if you think about it, she was, I mean, of course, she's a painter, right? But she used to do a lot of self portraits, right? And she
Yeah.
used to say, I don't remember exactly the words, but she always said that she used to paint herself the most because that's what she knew, right? And it's knowing yourself in a way. And I love that phrase. I love that quote because sometimes, like, yeah, my Instagram's full of selfies, right? But even then, like, I try to always, like, if I take selfies, like, I don't know, showing different character in a way sometimes. So it is fun. And actually, I took a couple of years ago, I took some modeling classes, and I took the photos especially because I wanted to learn what it's like to be in front of the camera in order for me to be able to help the people that I work with poses, one of them, and also how to actually like feel a little bit more freedom in front of a camera because it is intimidating. Yeah, I didn't like it.
Tell me more about this modeling class and what you learned.
You actually learn how to exaggerate movement. And that's what it is. Like sometimes you have to exaggerate things. Like if you think of high fashion, the poses, they look very strange and they feel very strange. But actually, when you see them in the cover of a magazine or when you see them in galleries, they work. And it's all about holding the body and being a little bit more comfortable with like getting away from the stiffness of just like crossing your arms or just like the peace sign, you know?
So stiffness comes across as strange to viewers or unnatural or not free, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like not.
And also think of it in terms of like film. Imagine if we had movies where we have some movies, right? Where the actors aren't just like embodying the characters or they don't feel comfortable. Like it would be really strange to watch a movie where like there's a lot of stiffness, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's mostly about the body. Yeah, I don't know.
That it is a talent that we don't really discuss as being a talent or a skill, and that's like being on camera, especially in the 21st century when we have all these phones around us and we're always watching content on phones or tablets or screens. The ability to be good on camera is a valuable skill to have, but it's never really talked about, right?
No, yeah, that's true. Especially, I think when it comes to social media, it's like you said, it's like your personal brand, but there's also a lot of like effort and talent on be that brand, you know, and actually knowing how to post, how to promote something. Yeah, how to take good photos of yourself in some ways for a lot of like big influencers. Yeah, it is a talent. It is a talent.
But why then in society do we not discuss that more?
I don't know. I think, well, seeing things from the perspective of probably like social media, of Instagram, I think a lot of people just are very hateful at times, or I don't know if they don't like to recognize that it is something valuable or that it's something, some type of talent. Because if you think about it, like social media, it's very new, it's fairly new.
Yeah.
So it's like, why is that important? Why is that relevant? Right? She's just taking photos. Like
Until they have to do it. Then they realize how difficult it is.
yeah, because we think, okay, that looks simple. Like I can take a selfie, but then actually when you have to work with yourself and you're like, oh damn, like I actually don't know how to pose, or I don't know how to take those angles, or I don't know how to edit my photos. Then you see the challenge, right? But yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know why people don't really discuss it as much. But yeah, I do believe that it is a talent. And I have to recognize that influencers, I mean, they might influence whoever people they want, they will sell the products they want, but they know how to build a brand around them. And that's so cool. I think so.
So do you think that's also the role of the photographer? And what makes a good photographer is if you can get your subject to be the most relaxed and natural that they can be?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think so.
Like there's
It comes across in a photo. Like if you think about it, sometimes when we take photos, like purple photos, you're like, oh my gosh, I hate how I look in that photo. I look so weird, right? It's because you don't feel comfortable enough. It's kind of funny. I mean, it has happened to me a lot of times, trust. So yeah, like it's also working around what is a good angle for you. How comfortable do you feel like in front of a lens? Yeah.
what do you shoot on?
I shoot in a very old camera. I need to upgrade my my camera, but it is a Nikon D500. Yes.
So why do you choose to shoot on that rather than say an iPhone?
Honestly, it is a very different medium. Like iPhones take really good photos, not gonna lie, but sometimes I really like the feel that a DSLR gives you in terms of like the final product. It is a different quality. Like iPhones have like amazing quality, but DSLRs, I don't know, there's just something to the essence of the photo that you can actually differentiate a photo between an iPhone and DSLR. Like I can. Yeah.
It's something I've been thinking about lately is I've had 3 DSLRs at one point. I used to do the podcast on DSLRs,
Oh, that's cool.
but it wasn't because it was so much work with files. And well, this is different. We're talking photography, and this was more like video, but the lens would shut off like every 10 minutes doing video. So then when you have like an hour-long video, you have like
Process every 10 minutes.
like 5 different files that you have to like start and stop. And I have found with iPhones, everything is so much more streamlined and the file organization is so much easier. And it's like there's less matter in a way. Whereas like physically taking a DSLR around, it's something that actually it can be a burden in some ways because you're less mobile. So a lot of like when I do video or photos, I love just the mobility that it can do. And that makes the comparison between DSLR photos and iPhone camera photos in favor of the iPhone because I can take more and more diverse in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, for example, I recently went to LA. I went to LA, I went to Disney, I went to Universal. I went to the Academy Awards Museum, which is really cool.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'm wearing my Oscars hoodie, which is kind of
Nice.
cool. And I didn't take my DSLR, and I wanted to take it, but I was like that. I was like, I'm gonna be carrying the camera around. I'm gonna be struggling because it was raining that week. So I was like, it's gonna get wet. So I didn't take the camera with me. And I regretted it so much.
Really?
Because one of the things that I love about the DSLRs, it gives you a different quality of the photo. Also, even because I usually work with a 50 millimeter lens, so it's a lot more focused, like for portraits. And there's a lot of people in LA, and I wanted to take photos of people, right? Just like street photography, even like the places, the buildings, the rain, the streets. And I try to do it with the iPhone, but it's not the same. I don't know. It's just the focal length. It's not the same, you know. It doesn't do what a 50 millimeter lens does. The iPhone doesn't do that. Even, and for example, even if you zoom in with the iPhone, it's gonna lose quality. If you zoom in with the DSLR camera and the lens, of course, the quality is there. So
I've seen photographers do little tricks like
on the iPhone. I know there's like little lenses for the iPhone to like to don't lose that quality, but I don't have those little lenses.
Isn't it fascinating, all the options of taking media? And if you compare that to, say, even like Frida Kahlo's day, how cheaper and more abundant the technology is, that the barrier of entry to pursue creativity or expression through visual is so much easier than it ever has been. In a way.
Yes, especially because like we have it like right here.
Something that bothers me.
Why?
Hold on, let me finish.
Wait,
Something that bothers.
Let me turn on the light because it's getting darker in here and I can see.
Oh yeah.
I don't have actually like realized, but we're gonna try our best to brighten up this one. There we go. It's better. I can see better now.
There you go. So I was saying, something that bothers me is how other people don't take good photos. So they're like, "Oh, you want me to take a photo of you?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then they take a photo and they're like, "Yeah, let me know what you think." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is good. Thank you." So like sometimes I do, like yesterday I was walking, I was downtown and I was on the bridge on the Chicago River, and there was a family of 4 and they were like taking like selfie photos, and then they try to take it, like the dad was taking a photo of his wife and the 2 kids, and I'm like, "You guys want a photo?" So then I take a photo and I take, like 10, more than like 10, and then I'm like squatting down, getting all these angles, and I'm like, "Check this out." And they're like, "Wow, thank you so much." Because it's something I'll do with other tourists too. Like I'll go and just like as a service, like take photos for people. It's interesting how it's not natural for people to take good photos, even though they're seeing all these images all the time. So like say framing or lighting, just basic concepts, rules of thirds that regular people don't think about, right?
Yeah, it's funny because whenever I'm taking like, even like you say, like a photo like of a family or something, I always try to look for the best angles, right? Where you can see the landscape, where the light is hitting, if the sun is like very much like on their faces, I'd be like, you know what, let's move around. You be on the side, so we're gonna get like better lighting. So I think of all of that, and I think to me it comes naturally. It's just something that I like. I just and I've always been like that, actually. Yeah. So I don't know if it's something that you develop over time, or it's just something that you're gonna like lean towards, or I don't know what it is. But yeah, it's funny how when you take like photos of people and they're like good photos and they're like, okay, could you take a photo of me? And it's like, we're like, the lighting is the worst, and then it's the worst pose, and it's like, oh, thank you.
But then sometimes you got to be like, all right, you stand there. I'll take a photo of you, and then you just replicate this.
Yes, and it doesn't even work.
Oh man.
I know that feeling, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like a lot of these are skills, but they're not often seen or discussed as like skills.
Mhm.
But it's so relevant. It's so relevant across the board.
Yeah, because even if you think about it, like all the TV commercials or the I think a lot of like food marketing of how photography is so crucial to what we buy.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look good, whether it's a perfume, whether it's food, whether it's makeup, clothing, you're not gonna buy it. It's all visual.
But people won't consciously
Think about it.
acknowledge that. We're being influenced all the time by images, visuals.
Yes.
Hmm.
That is interesting. That
Yeah.
is
And so like films then are sharing a narrative
yeah.
through visuals and audio, and this kind of marriage and blend of the two to get an audience to have a reaction or like a feeling.
And if you think about it, when it comes to film, film is a very unique type of experience because you're seeing things and you're feeling things. It's like you're there. It's the way that you merge into the movie or into the documentary you're watching. Like, I don't know, there's something very special about the experience of just going to a movie theater, watching a movie, and then cry in that movie, probably, or feeling excitement or anger, because it feels like you're right there, right? And it's made for that reason, right? It's to actually make you feel something. It's a beautiful form of art.
So something I do, I'll share with you the photography I practice.
Yeah.
So I call it moment photography. I don't know if it's a thing or not, but throughout our day, when we're going about our day, life is happening all around us and everything is interconnected. And each part of your day or your day is comprised of just moments, seconds, well, many, many seconds, but like moments. And so what I try to do is like train my mind to notice like interesting things or scenes. So if I'm on the street and there's an interesting car here and people walking over there and an interesting building here, I can like take a photo of it. So I'll go about my day and take a bunch of photos. I started doing this. I first started training my mind to do this when I made an art book. So I would go about my day, right? And then I would try to find things that looked interesting to me and then replicate it digitally.
Ooh, nice.
So this pattern right here is actually a sidewalk bump on the sidewalk so they're designed to be there for the visually impaired. So they're like these grooves, but these grooves have designs on them that are really cool. So like training your mind to find beauty like everywhere and find like interesting things. So I'll go about my day and just like take photos, and then I accumulate all these photos and I organize them in photo albums. And then I have like Apple TV. This is really like the only reason I have an Apple TV is so that I can connect my iCloud photos and the albums, and then I can watch them back in a slideshow, like on shuffle. And then it helps me practice gratitude for, I organize them with like trips. So like locations and then like months And so I can like visually like rewatch moments of my life back and be appreciative of those moments.
Yeah.
And so when I went to Mexico City, I took so many photos. So I'm like, this is gonna be the most epic album. So now I have like
There's a lot.
900 photos of Mexico City and like different scenes of Mexico City. And I enjoy that. Is there a name for that type of photography?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But that is a good practice, though. That is a
Yeah.
good practice. For example, if it's something that you see on the street, I would say that it's type of like street photography. That is just like happening on the street. I mean, of course, people have like different definitions to it, like what is actually like street photography, right? But
Yeah.
but if it's something that I see on the street, whatever thing it is, for me, that's street photography because like it was there, right? It's sort of like a portrait definition or something less artistic or more and even more abstract, right? Like you were saying, like with the patterns. I think that's really cool. That's a really cool and good practice. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. Thought I'd share that.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we head out here, what was your impression of Los Angeles? How many times have you been there?
I've been twice. So this was my
Okay.
second. There's a lot of contrast in LA.
How so?
One block, it's gonna be full of cool stuff, and then the second one, you're gonna see a lot of people in need on the street. That's something
Okay.
that caught my attention. And it's very crowded, very crowded.
So where did you go in Los Angeles?
We went to the Hollywood Boulevard, and I don't know, it was another like few streets, in like places, but I don't know the names, honestly, to be honest.
But you were by the Academy Awards Museum?
Yes, we were around that area, and also we moved around other streets, other areas, which I don't recall the names, to be honest.
Oh, good.
I think it was La Brea, like La Brea County. I don't know if it's a county or
Okay.
an area. And also, even just driving through the freeway, because we actually also stayed in Anaheim. Yeah, you see a lot of people, a lot of different people. You see, again, something that really caught my attention is the contrast between, because we were actually, I think, close to the Dolby Theater.
Okay.
And they had the street closed. And there was like a bunch of stuff, a bunch of traffic right there and everything. And then right, like you turn that corner in that street, and there were a bunch of people in tents, and I was like, oh dang. Yeah.
Interesting. What was your favorite? Go ahead.
No, yeah, that is just like, it is ironic. I don't know. Like one night you're watching people wearing like $10,000 dresses and shoes, and then right next to it, it's someone who doesn't even have like $10 for a new pair of shoes. So I don't know.
Yeah. What was your favorite part? Is it Disney World or Disneyland in California?
Disneyland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you gone to Disney World?
To the one in Florida?
Yeah.
No, I want to go to the Universal Studios in Florida just because of the Harry Potter park.
Oh, yeah.
I went to the one in California though. It's freaking cool. I loved it. It's kind of cool.
What was your favorite part about it?
But what?
The Disney Universal or the Disney
I
Land?
love both. Okay, so I'm a huge fan of Disney, and I'm a huge fan of what Universal does as well. So I really like both. But I gotta tell you, the Harry Potter theme park, yeah, it really blew me away. I'm a huge fan.
So they have Harry Potter in California and Florida.
Yes, but I think the original one opened in Universal Studios in Florida, in Orlando.
Okay.
That was the first one, and then they opened a smaller version of it, I think, here in California. So I want to go to the one in Florida, and I also want to go to the one that they have in London because it's like the place to be.
Oh, nice. Nice. Well, thanks for coming on and kind of exploring thoughts on photography, film, intention with expression and capturing moments. It's just fun.
No, thank you. It's always a pleasure to come to this podcast and talk to you. It's always interesting. We always have like very like cool in-depth conversations that go like,
Yeah,
it's cool. I like that.
those are the best. Well, thank you.
No, thank you.